Hi, I'm Jamie from Red Duchess Farm, and today I'm just going to throw together a little education on some spindles. I noticed that at the gathering, Dana from Sullivan family was doing some drop spindle work, and everybody's pretty interested in it. And I'm just going to show you a few of what I have and how I do some of my stuff. She's going to be putting together a huge spinning thing, so she'll get really in depth on some of the stuff. But as most of you know, I spin alpaca, and there are two different types of alpaca. And what I have here is, this is 100% Surrey alpaca, and it's very, very wispy and fine. So it's very difficult to spin, actually. It's just like when it just puffs. This is a wakaya alpaca. Nice thing about wakaya is it holds together a little bit better, and you can actually pre-draft this some. Whereas with the Surrey, sometimes you cannot. So I'm just going to show you some different types of spindles that I have, and kind of explain to you what kind of yarn what it's best suited for. So I'm going to start out with, this is the first drop spindle I ever had. This is a type of a Tibetan, and it's got the nice, tapered bottom here, but it really doesn't weigh very much. And the way that's set up, it is a top whirl, so you spin from the top, and the way it's set up is it spins slower. So you can get a little bit thicker yarn. Now granted, I'm spinning with Surrey, so nothing is thick, nothing. So, but you can get a little bit thicker yarn when you're spinning with, say, wool. You can get some really fat, chunky stuff on this. This is just a really nice, slow spinning spindle. You can get a good spin on it, and it's just smooth. So it's not a real fast, slows down quickly, and that's what you kind of want for a nice thick yarn. So that was my first one that I started learning with. And so then I decided, okay, we got that one down pat. So I went with more of an Aztec whirl. You see this has an alabaster base on it. It's heavy. This will spin faster. And so this one is just ideal for alpaca. This one is great for alpaca. I have Surrey on here now. So the thing with Surrey alpaca is you can spin and stop. This is what you want to do when you first start learning to spin. And then you can draft out a little bit. You've got to be very careful with the Surrey alpaca that you don't draft out too thin. I can get this very, very, very thin, but I have to be really careful on what I'm doing. Then you want to give it a good spin again. Like I said, when you're starting out, stop. Draft yourself back out. When you let go of this, it's automatically going to go up. And you got enough spin in there, you can draft up quite a ways. Give it a little bit of a spin, and then you're ready to unwrap. Wrap it on. Bring it up. Wrap it a few times, and you're ready to go again. So that's what we always tell people when you first start using a drop spindle is do the spin, stop, draft. I got a bad spot right there in the yarn, so it's got a little thing. Which when I'm done with this and it's plied together, it's not going to matter. Draft it out. Give it a spin. I don't suggest when you're first starting out that you try to pull a big long draft like this, because it's just harder to work with. After you've been doing it for a while, though, it doesn't really matter. You can stand up, walk around the room, and talk, work with it. Now, a lot of times you'll get these little knobbies in here, like I've got in this yarn. Reason for that, this yarn was, when I carded it out, one, it's not really roved, it's just carded. Second of all, it was carded for felting purposes. It was not carded for spinning. So I've got some pretty short staple length in here, and so once in a while you'll get little things that'll stick out. If you're going to sit there and you're going to work stuff for spinning, you want the nice longer stuff. You want all that little stuff worked out. But when it comes to felting, with what I do, I work with that. So this is a nice one for alpaca. Like I said, this is more of an Aztec. So then when you go and you have this one mastered, then you can jump up to a Russian spindle. The Russian spindles, as you can tell, they have these really cool shapes to them. They spin super fast and they do nice thin stuff. I have on here right now Wakaya. That's what I'm using the red for right now. Getting ready to pull back in. I'm going to run out of run out of fiber here in just a minute, and I'll show you how to stick it in there. Give it a nice good spin. Like I said, you can do the stop and go method. I use it all the time, unless I'm really getting into what I'm doing. But if I'm trying to get a little bit more precise, I'll slow myself down. You can pull in, pull in. You can pull this as thin as you could possibly want to on this Russian spindle. I mean, it spins fast. So you can pull up. When you get to about there, you've got this nice fuzzy end. That's when you just bring another fuzzy end in. Lay it in, kind of pull it together a little bit. Pinch it where it joins. Spin it. Of course, it's getting kind of long on me, so I just want to get enough twist in here to join them. And there you go. You're hooked together. Now, the thing with the Russian spindle is you can get a lot of twist because it spins so fast that it'll just spin right up. Once you ply it and hang it, it'll pull some of that twist out of there. But that's the thing about the Russian spindle. So just like any other spindle, you can do and I suggest this, and I think Grandma Rose is the one that said really, spin, stop, draft. Spin, stop, otherwise known as park, draft. When you're first starting out, this is what you want to learn. This will give you the same technique that you're going to use on a spinning wheel, only not set that direction. See how nice and thin this is getting? That's what this Russian spindle is good for. Now, I spin Surrey on here. There. Tiny. And I have to be careful because Surrey will fall apart very, very, very easily. So, anyway, this, when I first started, this was, I liked this spindle. And the guy that makes the spindles that I buy, I said, well, I'm not going to buy that one because I'll never learn to spin it. And as each year, once I mastered one, him and I traded for something, and I went to the next one. And obviously on the third year, I told him, I said, this is the one I want. And I got it figured out, and I really like it. So then the next year was like, okay, what are we going to trade for? So we went to a Navajo spindle. Now this one I'm not gonna actually spin on. I will show you kind of how it does. Same technique, only you cannot, obviously, actually I have, just on a dare, actually used it as a drop spindle. But what these are actually used for is you set them on the side of your leg and you spin up your leg. You pull a nice long draft, you bring it down, you roll it back up your leg again. And this is a long draft. This is a Navajo spindle. This is how the Navajo and the Pueblo Indians used to sit. You can sit on the ground. You can sit, and you can also make a support for this. But it just spins against your leg, and you make a nice long draft before you start working it in. That is a technique in itself. But that was the last one I learned. So a couple others that I have in my little archives here. We have a top whirl. And I believe that this is what Dana was working with over the weekend, was a top whirl. These, your bottom whirls and your top whirls spin just totally different types of yarn, or weights, I should say. This one works in the same manner, only all your weight's up here. So everything fills in below. And then we have, this one has, as you notice, it has no hook. It's all point. This one was made by a friend of mine, and it was kind of made especially for spinning cotton, because cotton is extremely small, little tiny short lengths, very slick. Quite frankly, it's not fun. But instead of having a hook, you bring up, like this one, you just bring it up here, and you take your yarn, make your loop, and I'm not going to be able to do it when we're talking about it. And you've got your loop. You spin from that way. And then when you're done, you just pop your loop off and it slides down. So these take a little bit of a time to get the hang of, that do not have the hooks on them. But once you do, it's not a problem at all. This one here has got a little bit of a nub and a heavy little weight on the bottom. This was made by a friend of mine, a Paducah fiber artist that does beadwork. And this is the first one he made, and he gave it to me to try it out. So as you can see, there are several different types of spindles, drop spindles, that you can work with. Some of them are better with some fibers than the others. But anything can be used with them. This, I have had a little problems with some of my original spindles for the cotton, and that's why I was given that one to try out. But hopefully this is just kind of giving you a little insight on different types of spindles, what kind of yarn, as I throw it on the floor, can be made with them, anywhere from the thick to thin. And with the Navajo spindle, you can do both, but it's usually made for a nice thick yarn, worsted weight or heavier. So hopefully that gave you a little bit of an idea on the different types of drop spindles and a basic idea of how to use them. Okay, as I was describing what was going on, I did use some terminology that maybe some of you don't quite understand. I refer to carding. Carding is when you take the fiber, the wool, the hair, whatever you're working with, and you either use these hand cards that have thousands of little needles on it, and it brushes everything out into the same direction, opens it up, brushes it out. Or you use a big electric carder, which is mostly what I use unless I'm just doing small stuff, and I make very large, like 36-inch long by 17-inch, what's called a bat. And what it is it's just a thick layer of that combed out fiber. When you do that, it's ready to pull apart to do with whatever, whether you're going to felt with it, whether you're going to spin with it. Kind of an example of the carded stuff. Now, like I said, this is just carded, and I've used it 1,000 times. But you see how it doesn't have, you don't just see strands of hair. It's all been combed together. Most of the time, this is Surrey. Surrey does not rove out well or line itself up. I can't even get it apart. I've had it rolled up for so long. There we go. But you see, in general, as I roll it out, now this is not a very, very good carded piece, but you see how it's all going the same direction in it mostly. That's what you get when you card. When you use another fiber, say Wakaya alpaca or wool, it's a very thick, even, firm chunk of hair or a bat. And they're very, very easy to pull apart into small pieces and whatever. Like I said, with the Surrey alpaca, it's a gamble. If you have a piece that was not carded quite as well, you start to see this has not been carded. It's been dyed, but see how it's still all in locks? Has not been carded out. It's been cleaned, it's been carded, or being cleaned and dyed. That is it. Has not been carded. Is not ready to use. This is very small, short locks, so it's going to be used for felting anyway. So that gives you an idea what the carding is. I also use the term bats. Bats are just the big chunks, the big flat pieces of carpet that's ready to use. I also we use the term drafting. which is the pulling and getting it lined up as thick as what you'd like for when you start to do that. And roving. Roving is after you have carded it, you have it in a bat, you can either roll it on a stick and make these little roll logs, and it's ready to just pull out and do, or you can take it lengthwise, pull it into pieces. Those are called roves. That's what's ready to start spinning. So I think I covered all the terminology that I used. Sometimes I just throw it in there, just assuming and everybody knows what I'm talking about. Most of the time I don't know what I'm talking about. So anyway, hopefully that helps. And there will be some more videos coming up on carding with hand carders, carding with the electric carder, and doing some bats, some roving, some roll logs, the whole 9 yards. So just keep tuned for that. If you like what you're seeing, make sure you subscribe to our channel. Hit the little blue bell, as Mark would say, and that way you can get notified when we throw some more good stuff up there. And I'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching from Red Duchess Farm.